Welcome to the Personal Development Mastery Podcast. I am Agi Keramidas and my mission is to inspire you to rise up, grow, stand out and take action towards the next level of your life. I am interviewing leaders, influencers, entrepreneurs, authors, exceptional people who can and will inspire you to improve your life. Tune in for 2 episodes each week, every Monday and Thursday. In today's show, I am delighted to speak with Eirini Kapsidou. Eirini, you came into contact with spirituality at the age of 19 when you met a Siberian shaman, and your life has been quite extraordinary ever since. You had always been a high achiever and even did a PhD on perception and photography, but after a profoundly changing experience of overcoming cancer, you gave into a more grounded and centered way of life, trusting and honoring your feminine wisdom and intuition. With the guidance of your dear brother, the shaman Alexander Northern Deer, you started leading spiritual events and are now successfully organizing drum meditations and workshops on awakening femininity and the art of relationships. Eirini, welcome to Personal Development Mastery Podcast. I'm really delighted to be speaking with you today.
Hi, I'm very, very happy to be here today, and thank you so much for inviting me.
It's my real pleasure, and I have been looking forward to this conversation.
Me too.
Eirini, shall we start with your journey, which has been extraordinary from many aspects. So I would like to ask you to give us a milestone in your life.
Mm-hmm.
So anything you want to start with?
Well, something that really changed my life forever was when I first came into contact with a Siberian shaman. And before that, I would say that I was a little girl, a city girl, a mama's girl. But after I started experiencing a transformation in my soul and in my life, through the experiences and practices that I followed, I completely changed. And the power that was kept hidden inside me, it started coming out more and more. And also I started having a different view of life, let's say, and seeing life not only in the way that an ordinary person would see, like, for example, you go to school, you go to the university, maybe, then you start working, and then you die at a point. So this is like the ordinary path of life that is paved for everyone. This is the social life. So after I delved into shamanism and into other practices like yoga also, I started realizing that my life was something completely different, that I could have contact with other things, with what we call the spirits, for example, and that I could become the master of my own destiny. Although, of course, this doesn't mean that you always control your life and your destiny, because my life actually showed me that there were many things that I had to overcome, and maybe still more, who knows. But I think I just I dived into this other world completely, and it completely changed my perception of things, of reality.
Mm-hmm. How sudden or not was that transition for you?
It was actually very sudden, because everything started with one night when I did some practices in the forest, and I also had to bathe naked in a pool, in a lake, which I was really ashamed of doing, and I was really not used to. And something changed in me. My body got into a shock, and then I needed some days to overcome the shock. even though this is something completely natural, I mean, you go to nature and you can just swim in a lake. But for me, because I was really closed within myself and I really was not used to these experiences, it was a big shock. So after that shock, on the day itself, I had said that, no, I really don't want to follow this shaman. I don't want to do the spiritual things. Leave me alone. And I needed just 1 week, I think. After that 1 week, I was like, okay, I'm all for it. Let's do it. Something changed in my mind. I don't know what happened. It was really magical, really mysterious. So, yeah.
Could it have been, I'm only guessing now, tell me if I'm right or wrong, some kind of deeper understanding that this was the right thing for you, even though you were at 19,
Yes.
you said at that time.
Yes, I was 19, actually. Yes, I was 19. And it was not easy because I was really surrounded by people who didn't believe so much in shamanism or in any other spiritual things. But of course, as I said before, I've always had the guidance of my brother, Alexander Northern Deer, who was there when this whole experience started as well. And I think, yeah, I mean, it was not easy, but something in me was drawn to it. And then it was like I couldn't do anything about it. I cannot explain it. It's just how it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, since you mentioned your brother, I will very quickly share with the listener that he was, still is, but when I was in the university, he was my best friend, and there were many aspects of my life and the way that I see things that were a direct influence by him. So for that, I'm always grateful, and I can only imagine how it must have been to be guided by him into this new and different path. Tell me, Eirini, because you said that it was something completely out of the ordinary, you were a city girl. How was the how did you cope with the reaction of your friends, your family, people who probably didn't understand what you were doing?
Yeah, as I said before, it was not easy at all. And people really didn't understand. They were trying to understand, but they couldn't. And I think my whole experience, what happened after that, because I also went, for example, to Caucasus, I went to Siberia to meet the master. So the trips and all the experiences I had also had an impact on them. Like I was changing and they were changing at the same time. So I think that it was difficult for them to be next to me when I was going through these changes. And I think just because of this reason, because also they had to deal with their own difficult moments and with their own unconscious situations and things and ideas. Yeah.
Was it difficult for you though? That's what I'm asking. Did you feel like you
Yeah,
had to
it was.
defend yourself in a way or stand up for your
Yes.
beliefs?
Yes, it was difficult. It was difficult. Although I have to admit that at the beginning of my course, of my path, I was not yet 100% into it. So I was trying to hide some parts, and then I would show some parts, and then I would say, for example, that I did this practice, and it changed me in this way, and people would look at me as if I was a witch or as if I was crazy, because also in Greece of that time, you can imagine that the people were not so open-minded. Now things have started to change, but at that time, people were really not open-minded at all. I felt, yes. So I felt that I had to defend myself very often, that I had to have specific strategies to cope with some behaviors around me, or some things I had to hide. Yeah. Unfortunately.
I think these are the, what is the phrase, that the obstacle is the way. So
exactly.
These are what we have to encounter and transcend in order to fulfill
exactly, yes.
our path, our purpose.
Yes.
Eirini,
and
yes, please.
Sorry.
No,
if I may say, this obstacle created in me a very big conflict, which later on appeared on the physical level. I had a really big conflict when I was younger between the social part and the spiritual part, because they were both very strong in me and within my family as well. So this conflict later on manifested in the illness I had to go through. Yeah.
And I would like to ask you a couple of things about that in a moment, but I want to carry on and ask a little bit more about shamanism and spirituality. So let's assume for a moment that the person who's listening to this conversation does not have much idea of what we're talking about. How would you explain what is shamanism to someone who maybe has heard the word but doesn't know exactly what it is?
Well, that's a very good question. Shamanism is the contact that you can have with a world that is not the world that we see. A shaman is somebody who has the means, or has the power, or has the knowledge to bring people into contact with another sphere of reality, with another level of reality that we're not used to in our everyday life. I don't know if this answers your question.
In a way, yes. In a way, yes. Could you be a bit more specific, though?
Yes,
what does it involve?
I have something in mind.
Okay.
So what it involves is you go on a journey, basically, with the help of the shaman who is beating his or her drum. Well, it can happen in many different ways. There are people, different people, different traditions, of course. There is the tradition of Latin America. There's a tradition of Siberia, of other countries. So in the Siberian tradition, you use the drum, and the drum is like your tool, it's like your horse, to take you to these different worlds that you want to travel to. So in this tradition specifically, we have 4 worlds. There is the world of the past, the world of the present, the world of the future, and the world of the absolute. So as you can understand, we go very deep in the unconscious, and we see what there is inside us. And this we do through some kind of trance. We actually go into trance. This happens because by beating the drum, you have a specific frequency, let's say, or through the beating, your brain, your 2 hemispheres are actually synchronized, and you can go very easily into this trance state. When I say trance, it is actually a very, very deep form of meditation. So for the people who have been meditating and who have felt how it is to really be very much in the present moment, trance takes you really deep into this. So you feel like you are in the present, so you really don't lose yourself somewhere, but you can travel to all these different dimensions at the same time. So for example, you can feel that your past is there with you. You can feel that your future is there with you, that the absolute is there with you, that all these things are there. You can feel these things inside you. And it's really amazing because there are people who participate, for example, in these journeys, in these drum meditations that I offer. And they have no idea about meditation, and it's their first time. And they can actually go very deep in this, and they can feel through my guidance, they can feel all these different emotions, for example, that have been latent in their unconscious, or they can get answers in relation to the future and what is going to happen to them, or what they want to do, or if they want to start something new, for instance, how they can do it. And at the end of this journey, you feel really connected with everything. And this is the purpose. To feel connected with yourself, with your center, to feel connected with the universe, to feel connected with the higher power that exists out there and in here.
In here, out there, what's the difference,
Yes, it
right?
exists everywhere, yes. Consciousness is one, yeah.
You answered in a way my next question, which would have been what kind of benefits are there for someone who goes into and attends a drumming shamanic meditation. Having had personal experience, I can actually say that it is all the things that you described. I have felt, and the calmness and the being connected afterwards. Can you tell me as well, who, apart from the people who are already intrigued by this and they say, oh, this is something I would like to try and see what it is, who else do you think it is for? Or maybe who is it not for?
Well, that's also a very good question, Ari. Well, me, I believe it's for everyone.
Okay.
But people who are too much in the mind and they cannot relax and accept that there is also something else apart from their thoughts, their ideas, and their own world. These people usually don't experience the trance that we were talking about in a profound way. However, it can have really great benefits for everyone. And it's actually because it is a tool that can help you go very deep within yourself and see what you're holding there. For example, there are people that have had big realizations about emotions that they were holding inside, and these emotions were actually latent, they were not conscious. And they realized these emotions, and then their life changed. Or, for instance, I have a very recent example of a person who realized that their mind is only blah, 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 blah. Yeah, they realized it in this way because it was part of the practice, but they really had a big realization about it. And this changed the person's life, I think. Because the mind is actually the sum of all the ideas and the programs and everything that exists in society and that has been transferred to you from a very young age, since you have been a baby, when you were a clean slate, and then your mind started absorbing all these different things and the way of perceiving the world and viewing the world. So, and it still continues through the media, for example, or through the parents, through teachers, if somebody is influenced by them. Yeah.
There is a phrase or a knowledge, if you want, that the mind, when you say the mind, it's very accurate because it is not our mind, it is the mind. So can you share your thoughts on this concept?
What is the mind, you mean?
I mean, the mind as a collective
As something
awareness rather than
collective.
something that is inside my head and inside your head and inside the listener's head.
Yes, it is true. Everything that exists out there has a word for it, an idea, and a form. And all these things exist not because we have decided that they exist. Yeah, it's not that I decided that this is, for example, a computer and I'm going to name it a computer. This has existed much before me. So when I came into this world, people taught me that this is a computer, that this is good for you because it's going to promote your knowledge, for example.
Yeah.
So there are also the values that exist in this collective kind of mind that you're talking about that are instilled in us from our childhood. So we learn what is good, what is bad. We learn how to view the world. We learn how to proceed, how to go ahead. We learn important than other things. And then we see, as we go on and ahead in our lives, we see that all these things, they actually don't serve us so much, because it's like a matrix, let's say, of ideas that enters our being. And this matrix really does not serve us 100%. I'm not saying that the mind is completely idiotic. I'm not saying that. Of course, it can help us in many ways. And without the mind and the logical mind, we wouldn't be able to survive, yes? So it is needed for our survival. But at the same time, we really need to open up to a bigger consciousness that is not really the mind. Because if you want to see it only from the point of view of neuroscience, in the brain, we have different compartments. There is the compartment that is responsible for the logical thinking. And there are other compartments which are responsible for other kinds of thinking or feeling. And neuroscientists have also discovered, or they are about to discover, that there is a part which is responsible for consciousness. So this is on the physical level. But on other levels, this consciousness is the expanded field, let's say, of everything that exists, as I said, out there and in here. So we need to learn to trust this a bit more, because sometimes you might feel that you have an intuition about something, and then your mind gets in the middle and you say, no, this is not good for me. This is not what I should do, because you have this interruption. But in fact, it's consciousness that is trying to tell you something. So we actually need to start trusting more our intuition.
Would you say that this is the same, like the concept of having faith?
Yes. It depends on what you mean by having faith, but yes. You can have faith, for example, in something larger than you. You can have faith in yourself. Also, you can have faith that you're actually a very strong person, that you can do anything that you set your mind to. Yes, so from this point of view, yes, I think it is related to having faith, yes.
I was referring really to faith in terms of trusting our intuition, trusting our instinct. I think you called it intuition.
Yes.
So I suppose you know very well that many people struggle with that, because the way the intuition speaks, it's not with words as the mind does. So there is a conflict to being able to follow this calling or this advice that the intuition gives you, whereas the voice from the mind is very loud and usually scary and can
it is very
hold
true.
you back. How can someone start to change that around and trust more in their intuition.
Mm-hmm. So this actually needs a leap of faith for the people who don't believe in it. This is my first reaction to it. Usually this leap of faith comes when you have a moment in your life that is apparently, that seemingly is a bad moment for you, that something happens to you, like, for example, an accident or an illness or a divorce or something like that, and which shakes your being. And then you realize that there is something more, that or there's something that you must look for. People start searching. They have questions and they start searching for things. And because they need to find the tools in order to get out of the situation they're in. So all the situations, in fact, they're blessings in disguise that come to us to show us that, yes, there is something else. And yes, it's not just you who have control of everything in your life. And yes, you sometimes need to surrender to this thing,
Power,
to this
yes.
consciousness, to this power. Everybody feels it in a different way. There are some people who say this is God. There are others who say this is a power that exists. There are others who say this is nature. Others who, I mean, people call it in different ways. That's why I say the thing. So everybody can name it in any way they want. So I think that in our life, this actually happens, that when we are too much in the mind, then something comes to us to push us and tell us, no, you should change something. Okay, this is not the way to go on about it. But there are ways to provoke it, if you want. There are ways to start understanding more and more what is this power. For example, through meditation, through shamanic drumming, as we said, through healing that you can receive from somebody. A lot of people start just by reading some books, and I know there have been many people who have started having big realizations by reading, for example, Eckhart Tolle, or I don't know, Deepak Chopra, or Anita Moorjani, or all these authors that have written really incredible books. So this could be a start. And then I think the second step is to start really meditating and going deep in yourself. You can meditate also through your breath, because the breath is very important. The breath connects us with the prana that is everywhere. This is what the yogis say. The prana is the energy that exists everywhere, and we're actually taking it in and we're pushing it out when we breathe in and we breathe out. So when you start connecting with this, you start realizing how there is a flow of energy everywhere, and everything is energy. I'm sure this is not the first time you've heard this, but but it's true. I mean, even from the point of view of physics, everything is actually energy. But we give form to it when we say something. Our mind interprets it and gives it a specific form, a specific idea, and a specific word. So when we start realizing that everything is energy, then we become part of this complete image, of this complete puzzle, let's say. And I think then we can start having more faith, and we can start really not only believing in something, but being part of it, realizing that we are part of it, realizing that we can really do anything we want. We have something very powerful in our hands.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Eirini, let me ask you, you mentioned earlier that that inner conflict that you had in your life manifested later on to a disease, which was cancer, and you had a profoundly changing experience of overcoming it. So do you want to share the lessons you learned from it, or anything that you think that really could make an impact in someone that listens?
Yes. Well, it was indeed a very deep experience. Learning that I had it in the first place and then overcoming it in the second place. It was a shock to me, first of all, to learn that I had cancer, because no one in my family had it. And I was the first one. And it was really shocking. I would never expect this to happen to me. I was already not eating bad, for example. I was exercising. I was quite young also. But then I realized that it was something that came to me, something karmic that came to me to solve. It was like I had to really be pushed by this illness to go deeper within me and see and face some emotions and some thoughts that I didn't want to face. I didn't want to handle, because I thought that all these were just to push aside and to hide and not really to externalize. So actually there was a part of me that I was not expressing, let's say. And this was, as you can understand, the more spiritual side of me. So later on, I realized that I need to express more and more the talents, if you want, that I had in me. And I need to trust more and more my intuition. And I need to really go deeper into this spiritual path, because this was for me the only way to really learn and know who I was, because I didn't know that before. At the same time, I was using a lot of different kinds of meditations, visualization techniques. Also, I received healing many times. My brother also gave me shamanic healing. And all these experiences were so wonderful, and they helped me connect with different parts of me that were really scattered, and they helped me see this conflict inside me. And they helped me see how I was really keeping something inside me and not expressing it. So it was very profound on many levels. On the physical level, I changed also a lot of things in relation to my diet, which was not bad before, as I said, but I had to make some radical changes, like eating only fruits and vegetables, for example. Stop eating meat, which contains a lot of hormones. And many other changes, like exercising more or finding some time for myself to calm down, to relax, not giving into stress. This is like also really important. And now that I mentioned stress, I would like to talk a bit more about it, because I think that illness and stress are very, very much interrelated. And I've realized this, it's really big to learn what this stress is in you. Because everybody has stress in their everyday lives, but this is not the external stress that we see. There is, in fact, another kind of stress that is inner, and it comes from certain experiences in our lives that have been traumatic for us, or that have been difficult for us to handle, and we have repressed. And these experiences are causing a conflict and a kind of stress within. So during my cancer journey, if you want, I found out that this stress is really, really, it goes very deep, and it starts even from childhood, when, for example, your emotions are not met, your physical, not your physical needs, or your emotional needs are not met, and there are some things that you repress. So So somebody who suffers from an illness really has to go deep in this. And not only by working with a psychologist or psychoanalyst, but by doing such rituals to really go very deep in the unconscious. Because through a shamanic ritual, for example, what happens is that your mind goes off. It's not there anymore. If you're guided properly. And this means that the body is last to really let go of everything that it has been holding. It's a bit primal. It's a bit a primitive way of doing it. It might sound to some people, but it is a very effective way of going very deep in the unconscious, because the unconscious is actually written on the body. And this is why illness comes on the physical level as well.
And I think it's important for everyone to understand that a disease and something like this in particular, it's not just physical. There are other levels, mental, emotional, that are involved, if not being directly the cause for it.
Yes, exactly.
And you said...
Yes, if I have to comment, sorry?
Yeah, carry on.
If
There is a little bit of delay. Yeah, carry on, yes.
All right. So I would say that, yes, indeed, there are different levels of reality that we're experiencing. And in these levels, there are different energies that get stuck. For instance, some emotions that get stuck in us and we cannot express them, or some other energies that, for example, when we go to a place that we don't really like, sometimes our body feels very weird, very strange, or we feel like different emotions inside us. Or sometimes when we have fights with people, these energies, like, they affect us in a way, then we feel bad maybe the rest of the day. So we can understand that it's not only on the physical level, on the level of the body. There are other levels that actually influence us. And as I said before, stress is something that plays a role and is present in all the different levels, and it is causing a lot of diseases. But this stress is not physical. This stress is energetic, is mental, is psychological. Yeah.
I would like to ask you to talk a little bit more. You mentioned the word or the phrase earlier that you received healing. And I want you to expand on the concept of healing as something that is received from us, either on a physical level, like with medication or anything else, or on an energetic, emotional or other level. But that is only one part of the healing, isn't it? Because the other part of the healing is what we do ourselves. We can receive as much as they give us, but there is some inner work that needs to be done. So I would like your thoughts on that, please.
Yes, exactly. So, for example, you can get some medication in order to deal with an illness that you have, or not. Or you may receive like a healing, as we said before, or you can do both. But actually, this is the least important. The most important is how you react to everything, how you react to what you receive. Because, for example, we know that there are people who receive chemotherapy, for instance, but they don't manage to overcome their cancer. There are other people who receive the same chemotherapy, but they manage to overcome it. So what is the difference there? What is happening? What is happening is that the people who overcome it actually have created inside them, within them, the right circumstances in order to create healing themselves. So, in fact, what I realized is that we are really powerful and we heal ourselves. whatever the case, even if we take medication, like a conventional medication, even if we don't, even if we receive a healing, if we really believe that this is going to help us, then it saves us. It's our belief that saves us. This is also what Christ used to say, no? So it is true. The mind, the brain, the mind is actually very powerful. So if you're open to healing, you're going to receive healing. The healing is going to come to you. I really do believe this.
There are two things that come to mind with what you said. One was the belief part, that our belief is what will heal us. And actually, it's very exciting times that that science is catching up with this concept. And for me, the book Dr. Bruce Lipton, The Biology of Belief, really demonstrates that very, very clearly in a very scientific way.
Yes, it's a great book.
One of the best
Indeed.
I've read. Yeah. And
yeah.
The other thing I wanted to ask you, because you said, you used the phrase to create the right circumstances inside of you for healing. So what exactly do you mean? Which are these circumstances?
So I will talk from my personal experience. What I felt while healing was that I was actually this I is not really my mind, but the consciousness of who I am, was actually the master of the body as well. So if I could find a way to tell my body to, for example, go and fight, like to tell my immune system to go and fight against some cancer cells, for instance, then it was actually happening. So I really felt that I had great power in this. I was not powerless. Like I could really, through visualization and meditation, I could feel even how my immune system was working. It was becoming more and more active, and it was helping very much in the process, for instance. So yes.
So is it, would you say it's a matter of instilling the belief, the certainty that we have the power to overcome this, and maybe use some techniques such as meditation, for example, to really instill that belief?
Yes, exactly. But first of all, you need to have the belief. You cannot believe in something that you consider to be fake, for example. So so you need to go deep in you and find, first of all, inside you what you want. Do you want to get over this disease or not? Because for me, there was no choice. I had to get over it. I really wanted it. I wanted to stay alive. So this gave me the belief, it gave me the strength, it gave me everything I needed to overcome it. But there are people maybe who, for many different reasons, who don't want to live anymore, who don't believe that life is good for them anymore, or maybe whose final moment has come, because this is also something. I mean, if you don't overcome a disease, it doesn't mean that you failed or you did something wrong. Yes, maybe it's just your moment to go to to go somewhere else, to leave this world. So this is very important, I think. It's the first thing. It's your motivation. It's your intention. Like, what do you want to do? And why are you here in this life? For me, for example, this became really clear when I was receiving the healings. For instance, it became clear to me, also with the help of some other people, that my intention in this life is to connect with everything and everyone, and to also help people realize the things that I had realized. So I have a big intention, a big mission, and I couldn't just go. So I had to heal. Mm-hmm. And this gave me the belief. It gave me the strength.
Thank you for listening to this first part of the interview with Eirini Kapsidou. Listen to the next episode, number 65, for the conclusion of this interview, where Eirini talks about the feminine energy and the misconceptions that there are about the feminine and the masculine energies. And she also does a meditation with the shamanic drum, which is absolutely amazing. Thank you for listening. Please take a moment to subscribe and review Personal Development Mastery on Apple Podcasts, and also share this podcast with someone who you think will benefit from it. If you want to gain access to exclusive content while supporting this podcast, then become my patron. The link is in the show notes, or you can type bit.ly/pdmpad. If you want to know more about what I do and how I can help you, or if you have any questions, join my Facebook group Personal Development Mastery. Again, the link is in the show notes, or you can simply type bit.ly/pdmgroup. And until next time, stand out, don't fit in.